Seven million years ago, the Earth looked very different. Vast forests stretched across Africa. Strange creatures moved through the trees. Predators ruled the plains. And somewhere among the branches lived a small primate that would unknowingly begin the greatest story ever told. The story of us. Human beings often see themselves as separate from nature. Builders of cities, explorers of space, masters of technology. But our story does not begin with skyscrapers or civilizations. It begins in the deep past, in ancient forests, with creatures that looked nothing like modern humans. In this video, we will travel across millions of years of human evolution, from ancient apes living in tropical forests to the emergence of modern humans who would one day reshape the entire planet. This is the extraordinary evolutionary journey from primitive apes to Homo sapiens. Our story begins around 20 million years ago in the lush forests of East Africa. High in the canopy lived an animal that looked somewhat like a monkey, but carried the early features of apes. This creature was PROCONSUL, roughly the size of a modern chimpanzee. PROCONSUL had a long, flexible body, strong limbs for climbing, and a tailless spine, one of the earliest traits linking it to modern apes and humans. Its skeletal structure reveals an animal perfectly adapted to life in trees. Long arms allowed it to swing between branches, while flexible shoulders helped it climb and balance. Unlike monkeys, however, PROCONSUL lacked a tail, suggesting it relied more on balance and strong limbs than tail support. Its brain was small, similar to that of modern monkeys, but its teeth were more like those of apes. This combination of traits marks it as one of the earliest members of the ape family tree. PROCONSUL likely lived in social groups and spent most of its time foraging for fruit, leaves, and insects among the branches. The forest provided abundant food, but also constant danger from predators. Although PROCONSUL would never walk upright or use tools, it represents an important evolutionary foundation. Over millions of years, environmental changes began transforming African forests into open woodlands and savannas. These new landscapes would favor creatures that could adapt to life both on the ground and in the trees. And from these changing environments, a new type of primate would emerge. One that began taking its first steps toward walking upright. Fast forward nearly 17 million years, and Africa has changed dramatically. Forests have begun giving way to open woodland and grassland. These new environments require new survival strategies. One of the earliest hominins to adapt to this changing world was Australopithecus, AFARENSIS. Standing around 1 to 1.5 meters tall, this species looked like a fascinating mix of ape and human. Their arms were long and powerful for climbing trees, but their legs and pelvis reveal something extraordinary. They walked upright. Their skeleton shows a pelvis and knee structure designed for bipedal walking, allowing them to move efficiently across the ground. Yet their curved fingers and long arms suggest they still spent time climbing trees for safety and food. Their brains were still relatively small, roughly 1/3 the size of modern human brains, but their posture marked a revolutionary shift in evolution. Australopithecus afarensis likely lived in small groups, moving between trees and open landscapes while searching for fruit, roots, and small animals. Walking upright offered several advantages. It freed the hands to carry food, improved visibility across tall grass, and allowed early hominins to travel longer distances. But life was still dangerous. Large predators roamed the African savannas, and survival required constant awareness. Yet these early walkers had begun something remarkable. They had taken the first true steps toward becoming human. As evolution continued, another species appeared around 3 million years ago, Australopithecus africanus. This species retained many features of its predecessor, but showed subtle yet important changes. Australopithecus africanus had a slightly larger brain, a more rounded skull, and a flatter face compared to earlier hominins. Its teeth were also more human-like, suggesting a more varied diet. Physically, they were still relatively small, standing about 1.2 to 1.4 meters tall, with a lightweight body and long arms. Their skeletal structure indicates they were fully capable of walking upright, though climbing likely remained part of their daily life. These early hominins lived in woodland and savanna environments, where food resources could be unpredictable. They likely ate fruits, seeds, roots, and possibly small animals. Evidence suggests they lived in social groups, cooperating for protection and survival. Although they were not yet toolmakers in the modern sense, their intelligence and adaptability were increasing. Their hands were becoming more dexterous. Their brains were slowly growing. Evolution was preparing the next major transformation. Soon, a new species would appear, one that would begin shaping the world with tools. Around 2.4 million years ago, a new species emerged that marked the true beginning of the human genus. This species was Homo habilis, meaning handyman. Homo habilis still looked somewhat primitive, but several features set it apart from earlier hominins. Its brain had grown significantly larger, about 50% larger than Australopithecus. This expansion of brain size allowed for more complex thinking and problem solving. Physically, Homo habilis was still relatively small, standing around 1.3 meters tall, with long arms and somewhat curved fingers. But their hands were becoming far more capable. For the first time in human evolution, stone tools began appearing in the archaeological record. These early tools were simple, sharp flakes chipped from stones, but they revolutionized survival. With tools, Homo habilis could cut meat, break bones for marrow, and process plants more efficiently. This new diet likely helped fuel the growth of the brain. Their lifestyle involved scavenging, gathering, and possibly hunting small animals. They lived in open landscapes where survival depended on intelligence and adaptability. But evolution was not finished. A new species would soon appear that would spread far beyond Africa and begin conquering the world. Nearly 2 million years ago, one of the most successful human species ever evolved. This was Homo erectus. Unlike earlier hominins, Homo erectus had a body remarkably similar to modern humans. They were taller, stronger, and built for long-distance walking and running. Their skeleton shows longer legs, shorter arms, and a fully upright posture. Standing up to 1.8 meters tall, Homo erectus was a powerful traveler capable of crossing vast landscapes. Their brain size had also increased significantly, reaching about 2/3 the size of modern human brains. But their greatest achievement was not just physical. Homo erectus mastered something that would forever change human survival: fire. The control of fire allowed them to cook food, stay warm, and protect themselves from predators. Even more remarkable, Homo erectus became the first human species to leave Africa. They spread into Asia and parts of Europe, adapting to new environments and climates. For over 1.5 million years, Homo erectus dominated the human evolutionary landscape. But eventually, their descendants would evolve even further. Around 700,000 years ago, another powerful human species emerged. Homo heidelbergensis was larger, stronger, and smarter than its ancestors, standing close to modern human height, with strong muscles and large bones. They were formidable hunters. Their brains were significantly larger than those of Homo erectus, approaching the size of modern humans. These early humans were capable of coordinated hunting, working together to bring down large animals such as deer and even prehistoric elephants. Their tools became more advanced and carefully crafted. They likely built simple shelters and used fire regularly. But most importantly, Homo heidelbergensis would give rise to two different evolutionary paths. One branch would evolve in Europe into a powerful species adapted to the cold. The other would eventually lead to modern humans. During the Ice Age, Europe and Western Asia were home to a remarkable human species, the Neanderthals. Neanderthals were shorter, but far more muscular than modern humans. Their stocky bodies, wide chests, and strong limbs helped them survive brutal Ice Age climates. Their skulls had prominent brow ridges and large noses that helped warm cold air before it reached the lungs. But despite their rugged appearance, Neanderthals were far from primitive. Their brains were as large as, or even larger than, modern human brains. They made sophisticated stone tools, hunted large animals, and likely cared for injured members of their groups. Evidence even suggests they buried their dead and may have created symbolic art. For hundreds of thousands of years, Neanderthals thrived in harsh environments. But eventually, a new human species would arrive, one that would change everything. Around 300,000 years ago, the first Homo sapiens appeared in Africa. Physically, they were different from all previous human species. Their skeletons were lighter and more graceful. Their skulls were rounder, with smaller brow ridges and a prominent chin. But the most important difference was inside the skull. The human brain had reached its modern form, capable of complex language, imagination, and abstract thought. These abilities allowed Homo sapiens to develop culture in ways no other species had before. They created art, built advanced tools, formed complex societies, and eventually spread across every continent on Earth. Within tens of thousands of years, Homo sapiens replaced all other human species. They crossed oceans, adapted to deserts, forests, and frozen tundra. They became farmers, builders, inventors, and explorers. And eventually, they built civilizations. But their journey had taken millions of years to reach this point. From the forest-dwelling PROCONSUL to the first upright walkers, from primitive toolmakers to globe-spanning explorers. The story of human evolution is a story of constant change. Each species carried small improvements, slightly larger brains, more efficient walking, smarter survival strategies. Over millions of years, these changes accumulated, and slowly, the creatures of the African forest became something entirely new. They became human. Today, Homo sapiens dominate the planet in ways no species ever has. We build cities, explore space, and unlock the secrets of the universe. Yet the story of our origins reminds us of something important. We are not separate from nature. We are part of a long evolutionary journey stretching back millions of years. And in every step of that journey, From ancient apes to modern humans lies the extraordinary story of how we came to be.